Hello, everyone. My name is Jeffrey Verpaalen, and I am Director of Agri-Food at HRA Global. We are a UK-based consultancy offering services to the agri-food industry, and we focus on insight, strategy, and commercial solutions across the entire agricultural value chain. I'm based in Spain, and I lead our efforts in sectors such as seeds, crop protection, as well as fruits and vegetables, areas where I have spent the past 13 years of my career. So today we will focus on the upstream part of the chain, talking about topics such as the growth of biologicals, the importance of digital solutions, the changing role of the agronomist, some regulatory perspectives, and global supply chains. For this discussion, I am joined by Lubos, Grepl, and Graham Dickinson. Both are industry experts in agricultural inputs. They are part of HRA's team of global experts, and I will have them introduce themselves now. So, Lubos, do you want to start and introduce yourself first, please?
Thank you, Jeffrey. My name is Lubos Grepl. I'm based in Czech Republic. Spent 35 years of my career with the agriculture, so I consider myself being veteran in the sector. Spent 20 more years with Monsanto and 11 years with Syngenta in the different leadership roles. And since last 5 years, I'm having my own business, supporting different startups and expert platforms to making strategic decisions and calling up the market drivers. And happy to join you here today.
Thank you, Lubos. Graham, do you want to do the same?
Good morning, both. My name's Graham Dickinson. As you say, I'm a veteran. I think, Lubos, we've worked on many projects in the past together, so I think we're a veteran. I've been in the sector for 40 years, from a farming background, then worked as an agronomist selling to farmers, and then worked for various chemical companies in different sales, marketing roles across Europe. But also had quite extensive experience in LATAM and USA as well. Primarily worked with Bayer, DuPont, Nufarm in the chem sector. I've since also worked as a distributor, working in Poland as the managing director of ProCam Polska, basically selling direct to farm. So got basically aspects from selling to farm, being a manufacturer, but also selling direct through into farmers as well. So experience in all those areas, and looking forward to our discussion this morning.
Thank you, Graham. I've worked with both of you, Lubos and Graham, on different projects, and always great to have your valuable expertise and insights complementary to our project team executing projects. So to set the stage for our today's discussion, in recent months, the European Commission stated its vision for agriculture and food, which sets the path for strengthening the EU farming and agri-food sector, mainly emphasizing on digitalization, biopesticides, plant biotechnology as kind of key enablers of progress. So the EU farmers must have access to a full toolbox of crop protection solutions. And this is what everybody agrees about. To achieve this, farmers need access to all available tools to choose their preferred production model. So this includes conventional pesticides, plant biotechnology solutions, digital and precision technologies, but certainly also biologicals. So maybe as a first topic for Graham and for Lubos, I'd like to discuss the growth of biologicals within crop protection. Although the EU crop protection market sees moderate growth, we do see that the biologicals group have been the fastest growing. So Graham, maybe to start with you, how do you see the adoption of biologicals in the EU or globally for that matter, and the main drivers behind it?
I mean, as you said, the main drivers are largely, well, there's 2 points really. One is lack or reduction in active ingredients in the crop protection sector. We're seeing, obviously, as a renewal process in Europe, a number of active ingredients are disappearing. A number of important active ingredients are disappearing, and as a consequence, we are looking for alternative solutions to solve the pests or the problem that product created or was there for. So to that extent, biologicals are now being considered as an option, generally to be used in sequence with crop protection, not alone. But that's basically where it's happening. But I mean, certainly there's a significant growth in it. I think there's no question this sector will grow. I think the issue is how it's regulated is going to be a factor in terms of how quickly it will grow.
Right. Yeah. And Lubos, also you have worked on quite a few biologicals projects. What are your viewpoints on this one?
Well, I would say that the entire agriculture input sector is undergoing a transformation. And that whole the transformation it's definitely characterized by the more sustainable and environmentally friendly agriculture input and practices. Back point to the biologicals. Let's also agree that the biologicals, the biopesticides, but we also look at the biostimulants, and nowadays also I like to talk about the value-added fertilizers, which in my view is becoming quite significant. It could become a quite significant sector. The rise of biologicals in crop protection has been particularly notable. That's for sure, and as been said by Graham, the drivers are explicitly mentioned there. However, the biostimulants innovations are offering a different solutions, addressing the different farmer needs with specific aspect on climate resilience. That's the very important one, the drought and heat nowadays. Also, the response to the pressure of produce more from less, which means the increased yield by enhancing the nutrition uptake, improving the plant health and harvest quality, and certainly also reduce the environmental impact of adopting practices that conserving the soil. Never before has been so many times mentioned the soil as is today, and rightly so. So, however, one of the biggest hurdle in shifting from the traditional pesticides to the biological solution sometimes is the farmer himself. That's conservative farmer himself. And while the sustainability is a growing priority for a farmer, he remains somehow hesitant to adopt a biological solution unless proven, well-tested, well-demonstrated. So overall, the performance concerns are in the place, and this requires the companies to support grower education, spend a significant amount of efforts, money, and time in field trials to establish the trustworthiness of the technologies that offer, and finally also to get the financial incentive to mitigate risk associated.
Yes. Yeah, and Graham, do you see differences geographically in adoption of biological, let's say, comparing Europe to North America?
Well, North America, it appears that it is growing quite substantially. I'd say probably the quickest growing market is Brazil at the moment, though, because obviously the ease of registration in Brazil has allowed more products to come to market. So I'd say Brazil is probably the fastest growing biological market at this moment in time, albeit I don't think it's actually taken over from the European market in actual terms of scale yet. But I think it will very quickly do that. I mean, Europe was basically the market, and generally it's been in what I call the fruit and veg sector, the specialized sectors, rather than the broadacre sectors.
Yes.
But that's where it's growing, and certainly I'd echo what Lubos said in terms of the size and scale. It will grow. It's still small relatively to crop protection, but it's growing very quickly. In terms of compound annual growth rate, it's much more rapid than conventional crop protection. I think one of the comments I would say is that biologicals is a little bit of a difficult area because there's so many different types of products encapsulated within biologicals. I think we have to be more specific because, as Lubos mentioned, biostimulants, I think they are becoming more important, but there's a plethora of them at the moment. It's actually discerning which one does what. And there is a concert at the moment where a lot of people come and say, this is universal, use it anywhere. That's very rare. You need to learn where to use it and where not to use it. And I think that's going to be more and more crucial as we go forward as well.
I think here is the important point, Graham, on the differentiation in the market. Otherwise, you would have like my product fits to all. It's not really creating the farmer trust of that. The farmer needs to understand what the product does in his situation, in his particular crop, in his particular soil health situation, and then the company defined and then make the proper offer. It's about managing the expectation, and that was not always done well in the past.
Yeah.
But now it's improving, and the farmers are trying to convince themselves in most of the cases but still it is a journey of really of establishing a lot of credibility through the differentiation and through the tailor-made offers towards the farmer. And that's what I wanted to just to highlight also, the value-added fertilizers, as they are combined fertilizers and the biostimulant, could become a fully compatible as they interact with the seed genetics, the soil, and farming precision equipment, which has been mentioned at the beginning also as a very important aspect of the digitalization. So this is something which I believe that is going to constantly grow. Back to the regional point, I would also say the Asia Pacific, specifically China and India. Some people would say, well, the small farmer households and so on, but the public, it's more and more interested in being more and more involved in how the food is produced, including environmental application of the farming practices, but also the processors and the exporters of the food. It's making and driving the adoption of a biological and biostimulant in the Asian markets, which are usually depending not only on the consumption of the public, but also on the export.
Yeah. No, very valid points. Thank you for those insights, guys. And another tool for the farmer is digital agronomic solutions, so which involves technologies like wireless remote monitoring, digital sensors, drones, AI-driven analysis, assisting farmers in using pesticides, fertilizers, and water efficiently while ensuring good yields, of course. A recent study by the European Parliament underlines that precision agriculture methods can lead to 20 to 30% decrease in pesticide use and a 50 to 80% reduction in the area where pesticides are applied. So my question to you guys would be, what current trends do you see in the crop protection market for digital solutions? And maybe secondly, what's your view on companies that struggle to monetize these digital solutions? Lubos, you want to go first, maybe?
The interesting point is, like 7-8 years ago, everybody in the market was talking about a digital solution, but we did not know how to monetize that, and even not the farmer. So in the end, each of the different suppliers provided its own type of tool and how to manage the crop, how to manage the farm, how to organize the operations, and so on. But the adoption of the digital agriculture nowadays, and specifically the precision technologies, is on the rise. And it's not only offering the cost and labor saving for farmer, but also opening numerous opportunities for companies to align with their targets on efficiency and sustainability. And the point here is that you would say, how comes that the crop protection companies are even promoting the technologies, which in the end has got the implication of reducing the amount of a product to spray. But here is a point: the efficiency and the sustainability needs to be achieved. And I think that all of the crop protection market leaders are doing the great job in contributing to the wide adoptions in that. We see that in the different alliances, we see that in different partnerships, we see that even in the different acquisitions, which results in precision agriculture allowing real-time monitoring, disease and pest detection system driven by AI, soil monitoring, the ability to predict of the weather and what will happen, and that helps the farmer to set up the proper seed rate and so on. So I think that the growing the AI-based capabilities and overall digital implication for agriculture is really on the top of the agenda of most of the crop protection company, and doing it right.
Yeah, absolutely. Graham, your perspectives?
I think I'd agree with what Lubos has said. I think the key thing for me, though, is how you transmit it and capture it, because the key thing for me is to try to get the farmer to encompass it. And again, there it's also recording data inputs, what yields. So it's getting an integrated approach to it so they can make what I call data-driven decisions. And that's going to be, I think, the crucial part of it. And what I'm seeing more is where people are integrating that onto farm, where they've got a total digital capture of what inputs have gone on, et cetera, that basically makes it a lot more value added. I still believe that there is a degree of confusion because of competing systems out there. And that's something which I think hopefully will become simpler as we go forward. But certainly there's no question digital solutions are the way forward, and it is the future, because as Lubos said, you can reduce inputs substantially. You can utilize water use better. You can manage your fertilizer inputs. So it's much more sustainable. And obviously from an economic perspective, you've got a better handle on what you are spending, on what your returns are on different parts of the field. You can then manage those different parts of the fields accordingly to what the potential is on those aspects of the field. So it's I think one of the things there is that what we tend to forget is the maximum yield of a field is driven but on the day you plant it. From there on, you're trying to keep that line as straight as possible, and it's how do you manage that, and this is where data is crucial to help you provide that information to allow you to do that.
However, the biggest challenge in my view, when I take the grower perspective, as I always like to, the grower asks, I want to have something very simple. You guys, you describe it, it's so complex and it's so much of data, big data, monitor here and there. So the challenge is how to make it simpler and user-friendly for a grower, that will be his primary choice to go and to ask that support or to get the tool, to get the solution, because it brings him a really benefit, but he needs to understand through the simplicity what the benefit is and how we can materialize them.
And this is where I think the digital recording of data and inputs is crucial to that. So I think, again, here, the distributor is quite key to how we do that, or the person who's actually giving the farmer advice on what product he uses and how he uses them. So that interaction, I think, is quite crucial in that respect as well.
Yeah, and to that point, on that point, Graham and Lubos as well. When we talk about the role of devising the grower, the farmer, the role of the agronomist, if you will, and the development of tools and solutions that are more and more available to farmers, do you see any particular changes or shifts in the role of the agronomist? Do you want to go first, maybe, Graham?
Yeah, I think the role of the agronomist is a crucial one. I think it varies country by country. In some countries that it is more a distributor agronomist. In other countries, say for Germany, for instance, it's more probably a government body that involved in that. In France, you've got a completely separate, in theory, advice and supply. So it depends who is giving the advice to the farmer. But I believe that agronomist input is actually crucial, that they understand the digital aspects of this in terms of taking that knowledge to the farmer. But the agronomist, I generally think, is going to be covering more hectares, not less. But he's going to be basically prescribing information on all inputs. Historically, it was primarily crop protection. I think they're becoming more important now in carbon capture, sustainable use of fertilizer, water usage. It's going to become more all-encompassing. So I think the skill levels of the agronomist is actually going to grow to allow them to provide that information.
Yeah. Lubos, do you see the same?
Yeah, definitely yes. And then moreover, since I'm based and raised in the market where typically the farmers are of larger size, Central East Europe, you would say I'm not even referring to the agronomist, but I'm referring to the farm manager, and I'm referring to the requirement towards the farm manager, which are, some of them are absolutely critical and they need to be accomplished. The first is about the focus on the soil health. So the ability to understand the biology of the soil is very crucial. It was not that before. Let's do not forget that the big lands has been rented by the farmer, by the owner, and the soil was not really always taken on the top of the priority. Now the time is changing. Sustainability with a focus on the health, conserving water, conserving water and making more less resilience on the chemicals. Second is about the climate change resilience management. The farmer needs to get the competence to understand what the impact is and needs to become a strategic expert in the soil, plant, and the climate interaction to manage the decision on the crop rotation, the soil choice, and so on. nutrition management, understanding the complexity of interaction between soil, plant, water, the so to speak interdependencies which are needs to be there, which came to the point in the last couple of years when you see a more and more biostimulant being offered to the market, the farmer starts to really understand what it takes if you apply the bacteria on the seed treatment, for instance. The farmer manager, I could see expertise in the genetic engineering and biology. The genetic engineering, because sooner or later you have a solution which will be really tailor made. And I was referring to the value added fertilizers, which will be tailor made to the specific hybrid, to unlock the complete biological potential, or even to protect the biological potential of the hybrid. And finally, we have started with exploring and utilizing the digital tools of any kind, which could explore the efficacy of robotics, drones, all of the sensoring. You know, a couple of years ago, the biggest job in the race was a drone operator. That's fine, great. We have now many drone operators in this part of the world, but it's about how you interpret what the drone pictures, and what is the picture, what is the data which a drone comes, and what is the decision you can make on the data. It's very important skill and the competence which the agronomist needs to require, or the provider needs to help him to learn how to do.
Yeah, no. Go ahead, Graham, please.
Certainly on the larger farms, if you go into Eastern Europe where the larger farms are, you got, you know, a bigger ground area completely, then I think digital input is going to be more crucial in those, because they don't have the physical time to monitor every farm as they would a small farmer. Say with 500 hectares, he probably walks around most of it every week or something like that. If you've got 50,000 hectares, you can't do that. And this is where technical input is going to become more important. So it's either satellite or drones, or a combination of both. And certainly today, satellites are becoming better because the cloud aspect is being taken account of, because they can take the cloud aspect out of it. So so this is, you know, there's a ready supply of data. The key thing then is how you interpret the data, which is what Lubos was saying, because to my mind is, we have all the data we need. It's now we need the knowledge to interpret it to make the right decisions, and decision is the crucial part. And that's where you have to basically you have people who've got the knowledge to say, well, this is saying this, that's saying that, therefore we're going to do X, Y, Z. And it's a decision-making process which is supported by data from different sources. That's going to be the crucial part of it.
Absolutely. The ability to interpret data is absolutely essential. And back to your point, Graham, I fully agree that we are not talking about a science fiction, but the autonomous machine and the robotics are offering 24-hour operating window for farmers, 24 hours. If you look at the farmer who gets squeezed window of planting 200, 300 hectares within 3 days, he needs to work 24 hours a day using all of the modern technologies in there. So you can have a robot sprayer could sit in the field and waiting for command to spray until get the command because of the correct weather conditions, which were signaled to the grower through the different sensors. So everything here is coming into that direction.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
so another
environmental impact as well. Certainly, if you've got bees foraging, they don't forage at night. Therefore, you can apply at night. There's all sorts of aspects of stewardship of products which we need to take into account with this technology as well, which is a new area which we're just beginning to touch the skin of, really.
Yeah. Another area I wanted to touch on, guys, is the changing landscape in terms of the regulatory framework in Europe, specifically for regulation of NGTs, new genomic techniques, for example. Lubos already touched just now on genetic engineering. So to unlock the potential of biologicals, the EU must ensure that they are rapidly brought to the EU marketplace, right? So today, biopesticides face regulatory challenges in the EU, and adapting the EU regulatory framework seems essential to maximize the adoption of biologicals. There's a lot of uncertainty in the market, and what impact do these changing regulations have on the different stakeholders? We see a loss of active ingredients. The earnings by distributors are smaller, stagnating growth, and a lot of questions and uncertainty there. What are your viewpoints on this changing regulatory landscape, Graham, and the impact?
The impact, the key thing for me with biologicals is effectively if you're doing anything which kills a pest, be it a biological or a synthetic, it's termed to be so it's under 1107. So it's a pesticide. And with a lot of the products we're looking at basically lysates or things like that. And sometimes you can have 1 or 2 lysates. If it's 2 lysates, it's 2 active ingredients. So you've got double the cost of basically bringing a product to market. So these are some of the complexities which have to be taken into account with any proposed new legislation. And we're still not clear what that looks like. And until we're clear what it looks like, people are frightened to invest because you're talking substantial amounts of money. I've been working with a company who've got a lysate product, and it's got 2 lysates in there. So they're talking probably about a 10 to 12 million investment just to get that product registered as a pesticide. So that is withholding a lot of, I think, technology which could be brought to market relatively quickly. We need that legislation to be clear so that people know what ground rules they're working with. That's I think is essential because it's a big risk at the moment.
Absolutely. Lubos, your views on the regulatory piece?
I could do the two from the farmer perspective. I can hear, and I'm talking with the farmers, there's a lot of frustrations around. On one hand, you see that the key important product for corn grower, sunflower grower, is the insecticide. So those are leaving and not renewed, or they are leaving the market, that there are no alternatives coming in from the insecticides perspective. So I would wish that if on one hand there is a decision of not to extend or not to prolong registration, there is a fast and simple process of renewal, of substituting the alternative and bringing it fast to the market. But if you look at from the chemistry perspective, AI, bringing from the molecular to the finished product, I think that more of concern is about the cost, is about several $100 million. And in terms of the money you can easily take 5 to 6, 7 years based on the requirements of the EUs, which are put in the different type of parts of it. When it comes to the biocontrol, like in bioinsecticides, is still a long journey to go. I would say 5, 6, 7 years where the things will come. So on one hand, we are requiring the farmer to comply and to act sustainably, and we are taking the tools which the farmer can take. So I would wish that EU accelerates the accelerates the process of bringing the product into the farmer, which are effective and at the same time comply with all of the regulations.
Yeah, great points there. And last topic for today, guys, I wanted to discuss with you is the agricultural supply chain. As we all know, there are external factors that impact the supply chain. We've had COVID-19. We see geopolitical events. We see climate change, all having an impact on the agricultural supply chain. What are your views on the fragility of the agricultural supply chain? Lubos, you want to start?
Well, sure. I think that you have mentioned already the fact that what has happened in COVID and all number of a different global network being broken completely to be reestablished, and it's not going to be that easy. The point which I would like to make to differentiate, the crop protection manufacturing is global, seed production manufacturing is local. So when your crop protection manufacturing and finished product depends on the supplier from all different types of worlds, where you are sourcing typically those which are most reliable and efficient, you export it from the east, you import it from the west, you are becoming quite vulnerable and pretty much impactful by all of the global circumstances. But let me elaborate a little bit more on the seed. You have also 2 impacts. You mentioned geopolitical. Let's face it, the war in Ukraine, where the high quality seed production has been just established, has also somehow broken the source of the supply. But there is something which is even much more impactful, and again, is the drought and heat. If you look at the traditional South European, Southeast European markets, like in Hungary and Romania, which are exposed to the heat waves, that the seed production is becoming almost impossible, or it's so much of expensive, and at the end, even the irrigation is not effective. So what you do as a reaction to that, you try to move sweet seed production more to the northwest in the Europe, but the point is that your seed plant stays where you have built it. So in other words, it requires the company to come with a completely different type of a logistic manufacturing model of saying, fine, if I produce my seeds somewhere in Poland or in Czechia or in Germany, how I will bring the seeds from the field, drying it on the way to my processing plant in the Romania and in Hungary to finish the treatment and bag it for a customer. So here we have actually not only the geopolitical, but we have really an environmental impacts, which is touching very much significantly the seed production in general in Europe.
Mm.
Yeah, Graham, what's your view on this? The agricultural supply chain being vulnerable to specifically, its reliance on specific inputs, right? And we've seen the impact. What's your view?
I mean, I think you hit on it. You said that COVID obviously had an impact. I think at COVID time, people tried to basically de-risk their supply chain to some degree and basically widen it.
Yeah.
I think that is easy said, but very difficult to do, because when you look at where a lot of the raw materials are sourced from initially, it is China. And even when you try to basically improve your backward connection, say in India, you are still dependent on China for a lot of your raw materials. So I think this is part and parcel of it. We have a global supply chain now. Every party's interacted.
Yep.
With these interruptions, we've seen from basically destocking because of COVID, and then now high prices, then low prices. There's a massive restriction on what people are prepared to stock. Also, working capital costs have gone up because of interest rate increases. So there's a number of factors which have basically made people very nervous about keeping stock. And when people don't want to keep stock, then there's suddenly a big upsurge. People can't meet that upsurge, and we have a supply chain crisis. And we got that this year on many products. This year in particular, because of the fact that people didn't want to commit and take product, they are now not getting supplied with product that they desperately need. So it's creating a lot of knock-on domino effects.
Yes.
So it's quite a challenge, I think, at the moment. And also
Right.
then you've got the geopolitical, plus you've got tariffs potentially going to impact that as well. So all this has to be taken into consideration. So it's one of those areas where I think people want sort of consistency, and we can see it. But there's so many moving pieces at the moment, it is making it a very difficult market to navigate.
Yes, absolutely. All right, guys, thank you very much for sharing all your views today. I look forward to reconnecting with both of you on next topics on the next occasion. So this brings us to the end of our conversation today. Thank you for listening in and for your attention. We are available to further discuss these topics or any other topics where there may be a need for some external support. As you will have seen with experts like Graham and Lubos, we are very well positioned to support in any of these topics. So thanks again, and see you next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.